Season 6.5 is about to start, so I think it's the perfect time for a Season 6 tier list. Don't you? The way too late Marvel Rivals Season 6.0 tier list. Alright, we'll cap off this season. Pretty sure the first release and the first reveal of everything is tomorrow, and we'll see how this lady does, how well she performs tomorrow. You know, we'll see how everything goes. But before that, we got some things to take care of. So first and foremost, the thing that needs to be done before anything else, the F tier can be gotten rid of. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. Everyone is good to go this season. There's no concern of them failing characters or anything. I don't see a need. I think everything can be ranked between one above all and D tier. Given a bit of a ranking myself, there are too many tier lists on this website, so I just made my own. I'm gonna post it in the description if you're interested. Shout out the Rivals Wiki for these sick pictures. These are official, by the way. These are pretty cool. But without further ado, I say we get started. I got some comments last time to split it apart between the roles. I think that's a good idea. I'm still gonna go by release though, because I think that's cool. But we'll do tanks first, then DPS, then support, as per the wheel demands it. So, yeah. So, ranking tanks, this season, tanks have really been tricky. Because there's been a bit of a phenomenon of solo tanking. And I hate to say it, it's Rogue's fault. It's Rogue's fault. It is. So, Season 6.0 is this season. Season 5.5, Rogue came out. And simply because her name was Rogue, and her face was Rogue, and her body was Rogue, okay? Everyone wanted to play her, because she was a popular character, everyone knew about her, everyone wanted to try her out. But that meant that people were locking in as tank at the beginning of games. They'd play her for 1 minute, realize, oh, this is a 5-star difficulty character, and then swap back to DPS or something. And it's like, why would you lock in tank? Just why would you bother locking in tank if you're not going to swap to tank? And thus became a cycle of making it a norm to have solo tanks. So tanks were really frustrated, tank players were really frustrated in 5.5, and a lot of people, the normies, just jumped ship. The real ones, the real tank players, shout out to you who stuck through it, noticed a significant improvement moving to 6.0 because they buffed a lot of the solo tanks and they made it easier, because last season Magneto was the only pick. It really was. He was the only pick. You know, Magneto and Groot pretty much, but Magneto was the only one that people saw as a realistic pick. Come to this season, now there's a couple answers. There's a couple options that you can realistically pick as a solo tank or a really easy duo tank, right? So I'm going to rank these according to solo tank value, because unfortunately that is the meta in pretty much Grandmaster and below. You know, I hate it, I don't like it, I'm a tank main myself. Thankfully I've gotten up to Diamond this season, but I mean, it's terrible. It's everywhere. Like, you lock in as tank and that's like, okay, we're good to go, we got our one tank. It's not enough, okay? And a lot of these characters really suffer from that. Without further ado, Strange. Strange has gotten some offensive buffs. They're really trying to gear him towards offense, I think, at the moment. He's got the big shield, but even with the new changes that they're doing, the new balance updates, like, they're not putting him as a defensive character. They're really making him an offensive character. You know, his new team up with Invis that's coming, it's all geared toward offense. He's got the giant shield, but, you know, he's not going to stay still in the front line. He's going to dive, you know, or at least, like, push in really aggressively. I like that, because sometimes Strange and Magneto are a little too similar, and I like that they're really trying to separate them a little bit, where Magneto you almost never use his melee, at least right now. Strange, you always use it. Strange, you always walk forward and just walk through the tanks. I like that they're separating him. The problem with the problem with Strange is he gets countered by every single tank in the game. Okay, every tank in this game has a counter to him, to his ultimate, to the way he plays, to everything. Hulk can jump him if he's in the air, can stun him if he's trying to ult. Groot's walls become a big issue for sightlines and everything like that. Also, his ultimate can stun him out of his ult. Penny can stun him out of his ult. Magneto can just bubble and his ult is pointless, you know? Venom can really remove him from a place where he would want to do his ultimate. Alternatively, Venom and Strange ult combo is a big deal, but Venom's probably the least countering Strange, but he also doesn't care that Strange exists. He just goes around Strange and goes to the back line, you know? So he can make Strange turn around and then all of his value is pointless, right? The rest of these are basically all movement stuff, but the big one is, you know, Strange is barely S tier, is what I'm getting at. I can't put him A tier because he is, like, the pinnacle of solo tanking, you know, the way that some people see it. I don't think he's the best solo tank. We'll get to there. We'll get to that. Strange actually is a bit of a problem for tank pool. It's more so that tank pool just doesn't counter Strange. It's just a, you know, an even playing field. So Strange will be bottom tank in S tier, but he does deserve S tier because he can solo tank, and he does it pretty well. Moving on. Hulk. Hulk got some good buffs. He's not D tier, he's not C tier, but he can't be A tier because he doesn't carry things on his own. He's way too difficult, you have to be good at him, and then you can provide pretty good value. He's not a solo tank, so I can't put him in A. He's got to be B. If he could solo tank, and he was really difficult, I could put him in A, but he can't solo tank. You have to have someone holding down the fort while you jump in and do what you want. So, Hulk's got to be B. He needs something. I don't think the Thing team up is it. I think it's going to be fun, but I don't think the Thing team up is it. He needs something to push him over the edge, but I think that Hulk's going to be B tier for a bit. Groot. My eyes have been opened. I was unsure about Groot last season. Not unsure about him this season. I'm all aboard. His ultimate count, you know, you can co-op with like half the heroes in the game and just wipe the entire team. Sight lines are huge because poke is a big deal right now. And he completely blocks us off with walls. CC is a big problem at the moment. It's a huge problem right now. And he just ignores that with the Ironwood wall. And he got some minor ult buffs this season. Huge. Absolutely huge. There's no getting around it. Groot is amazing right now. If you know how to play Groot, you should be playing him. It just is what it is. Penny lost the rocket team up, but she is still really good on certain maps, and people have started to learn that they can dive with her. And I think that could raise her value up a lot when people realize that as well. It's really only being used in high elo and pro play, but you know, it's like the tippy top of high elo with like the 3 Penny players. So I think when it starts to trickle down a bit, it's gonna get some more use, and I think she's gonna be a little bit more versatile. But for now, she's just good on certain maps across all ranks. You know, she's a good pick for those, but like many others, like Hulk himself, she cannot solo tank. I think she has a lower ceiling than Hulk does. I think Hulk has a higher capacity, so I'm going to rank her below Hulk. Magneto is not the menace he was last season. I mean, he got no changes, but power creep and the solo tank, you know, epidemic has existed. Plus we got basically 3 new characters with Deadpool. Magneto's pretty good. He helps with poke. You know, he can keep people alive if someone's getting hard focused. He's just very standard, solid, middle of the road S tier tank, right? It's kind of antithetical, but it really makes sense if you think of him like that. He's probably the best neutral S tier tank, you know? He holds down the fort, he does everything great, and I still think he has the best tank ultimate, if not ultimate, in the game. Probably gets eked out by Gambit, but that's just because Gambit's ultimate is completely broken in every way. Moving on to Venom. Venom's fallen on hard times. Dive has not been popular. I think that Dive is coming back at the moment, especially seeing that there's little to no balance updates to almost any characters. You know, I think the natural progression of, poke, becoming Dive, you know, becoming something out of control. I think they're going to let that play out before they make some real differences. But, you know, if you run Venom with a coordinated team comp, he can do some real damage. But he is not a very reliable, steadfast tank right now. You can't frontline with him. You jump to the back line, and triple support is such a big deal right now. Triple DPS is such a big deal right now. And, frankly, the best poke characters have something that can deal with anti-dive. So, it's kind of a non-issue. So I'm not going to put him as far as C. He still gets some very good value if you run him in the right comp. But he doesn't deserve A. I think he's worst tank in the game right now. Which I hate to say, but I think it's true. Thor is extremely solid. Extremely solid. Top of A. The only reason Thor is not an S is because it's hard to solo tank with the guy. Okay? CC is incredible. He does a ton of damage. You know, a lot of people call him a fat DPS. I don't disagree. But, you know, he's really good. He's really, really good. The Angela team up makes him even better. Gives him fantastic mobility. Yeah, he's about to get another buff. I think Thor stocks are only going up right now. I really think so. If next season is a 2-tank meta again, then I think Thor will be S tier all over again. I think Thor is just a meta away from being S tier. I really do. Now for the elephant in the room. Captain America. Some of you may wonder why I'm ranking him so high. Cap is a menace, and believe it or not, he can solo tank, because Captain America is a third or even a fourth support ultimate. And that can mean the difference. It can really mean the difference. You know, like, jumps in the back line, basically doesn't die, you know, ignores a lot of the fancy tricks that the poke characters have for DPS diving, you know, for standard character diving. Just ignores it, can put up a shield and just runs around, jumps around. You take attention away just long enough to become a problem. You know, Captain America's amazing right now. Plus, he's basically the go-to in pro play right now, if you don't have a portal or if you've already used the portal. So, you know, clearly he's got a huge ceiling. You know, he's got a crazy high ceiling that you can take immense advantage of. So, clearly, you know, he's got potential. There's room to use him, and people are using him. I think people should use him more. I think he's honestly slept on. I don't think he's as good as Groot. I feel like Groot is a little bit better than the guy, but Cap is honestly amazing at the moment. And yeah, if he's in a 2-tank lineup, like, it's over. It's just done. You know, you put Cap in a 2-tank lineup, and he just provides so much value that the other tank can just push so far. It's almost like you're doing their job for them. It's honestly crazy. Now for the Cap glazing, this is your on-release tank roster. Very glad that so many of the guys are, you know, up top. But we're not done with tanks. On to Season 1. Season 1, The Thing. The Thing barely ekes out over Thor for A tier. The Thing counters absolutely everything. Okay? All of these S tier tanks are countered by the Thing. Okay? Like, Magneto to a lesser degree, but all of these S tier tanks are, you know, do not like the Thing. And the mobility of all of these different characters, the CC of all these different characters, basically all of the characters down below, almost every DPS in the game, no one likes the Thing. Okay? If you're getting destroyed by a highly mobile character, you choose the Thing and they're done. Okay? Only problem with the Thing, just like Thor, he's not a very good solo tank. You have to have someone swap to Thing who's already playing tank, or who's playing a third DPS or a third support. Because you have to have him with another tank. He cannot do everything. You know, he can do either frontline or backline. He cannot do both. And trying to make him do both, you're just going to lose your mind. You know, and people are going to blame you. It's not a fun sight. It's not a fun time. So there's the Thing. Season 2 brought us Emma. Emma got some good buffs to her default attack, to her basic attacks. It's a shame that she's not better. But she can't solo tank. It's the same thing as the Thing. She can either frontline or she can backline. And she does one or the other really well. But she cannot do both. And for that reason, like, she has to go in A. She can't be an S. She's really good if she's with another tank, but she cannot support the entire team. You know, like the other characters up in S tier can. I think she, honestly, in the single tank meta, probably is hurt the most. You know, she would be an S tier if we were in a double tank meta. I honestly believe that. She would be an S tier. And another crime who should be an S tier is Angela. If we were in a double tank meta, Angela would be an S tier. because you could have someone taking all the attention in the front, and Angela could swoop in and take one or two characters and just remove them. But she can't do it alone. She has to have someone come in and assist. She has to have a second tank. And because of that, I have to put her in A. It's unfortunate. I think she's amazing. Her and Thor absolutely dominate on the field right now. But, you know, it's tragic. It really is. I hate to do it, but all of these A tier tanks, besides maybe Thing, could be an S tier right now. But solo tanking is the meta. We've been squished into this solo tank meta. It's really unfortunate. The culprit, Rogue, from Season 5. I really want to put her in A. Believe me, I really want to put her in A. But I can't. Rogue has to be put in B. Rogue or Hulk? Rogue or Hulk is the best B tier tank. I think Hulk simply because he's been out longer and people know him better. You know? I think Rogue is honestly easier to play than Hulk, but, you know, no one below Grandmaster is playing Rogue right now. And, you know, also because she's kind of tied to a permaband DPS practically. Permaband support that kind of determines a lot of her value. The biggest reason why I have to put her in B tier is because she just melts under Poke, and Poke is meta. So I can't put her higher because she can't hold her own. You know, I'd love to. I'd love to put her higher than where she is, but you know, her block attracts projectiles. Okay? And you know, if you try to put the block up for an extended period of time, you know, you can maybe block a couple of them and you can help some of your teammates, but immediately you've made yourself a target. She's gonna get like headshot twice, 3 times, and she's done. Okay? And then you're back to spawn. And her cooldowns are so high, she can't mitigate. You know, she just crumbles under the pressure. It's tragic, but it's true. She's getting some real good buffs with the patch notes. I'm really excited for that. Her fatal attraction's going down 3 seconds, which is huge. Some other buff, I think, to giving her with her, I think it's her block. I think her block removes like more damage than normal. I could be wrong. I think that's the case though. But you know, I think she'll be meta if Gambit isn't banned. You know, she's a must play in high elo right now, but Gambit's getting banned everywhere, so kind of an issue. Kind of an issue, non-issue kind of situation. Tank pool, thing everyone's been waiting for. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait a little longer because I'm talking about all 3 versions of Deadpool after the DPSs have been talked about. I will rank him now, but be aware, there is a lot to talk about with this guy, okay? Before you write your comments, wait until the DPSs have been talked about, the duelists have been gone through, and then we will go over the book, the novel, that is the 3 Deadpools. Alright. So bear with me. But these are your tanks right now. These are your tanks. I will rank the one above all tank right now so that we don't have to worry about that later. Blah blah blah, no surprise. I put him here. Groot. Like I said, poke is such a big deal. He completely blocks off sightlines. Crowd control is a big deal. He doesn't care. He just doesn't care. Plus the Ironwood wall that you want to have up at all times gives overshield, his ultimate combos with almost every character in the game to just wipe teams. He's insane. And the fact that he's not getting touched for the next season is bonkers. It's absurd. We're probably going to see him right back here next season. You know, we might see some changes if solo tanking is changed from the meta, but I'm telling you what, this is you know, he's crazy. He's absurd. If you want to learn a tank right now and you don't know any, learn Groot. Groot is the one to know. Especially because he's got a team up with an S tier. Well, I'll leave the tier rankings, but he's got a team up with 2 really good supports. You know, one that you pick almost every time, and one that has probably the highest ceiling of every support in the game. I'll let you stew on that as to which is which. But moving on to the duelists. Everyone's favorite faction. Everyone's favorite role. Starting off with a banger. Iron Man. I'm gonna get it over with. Iron Man and Squirrel Girl are in the same situation. They're in the same spot, exactly. Okay? Going a bit out of order, but these two are exactly the same character. These two characters suffer from exactly what the tanks are dealing with. Okay? These two characters care about having large hitboxes on the enemy team. The more large hitboxes there are on the enemy team, the better Squirrel Girl and Iron Man are. Iron Man can melt some tanks with his beam, with his unibeam thing. But if there's not many tanks, if there's maybe one tank, then what's he supposed to do? You know, like, plus all the tanks that are being used are shield tanks. You know, like, he's stuck. He's also an extremely slow moving target in a poke meta in the air. Obvious. He's in a bad spot. He needs some sort of Ultron movement ability or something. I don't think they're doing anything to him in the patch notes. So it's tragic, but Iron Man is probably going to be low for a bit. Also, he's teamed up with some amazing characters. Irony. Squirrel Girl, exactly the same. You know, she just shoots nuts randomly. If there's a bunch of large hitboxes, it hits the shields, it hits the characters, it takes them down, because they can't really avoid it very well. But there's not many large hitboxes. You know, maybe she can take out a shield at the moment, but, you know, her value and Iron Man's value are both tied to tank value. And double tank is not meta, unfortunately. So they're both in D tier. Someone who's not in D tier, Spidey. I think Spidey got enough of a boost with the Penny team up, got enough of a boost with some incoming things that he could potentially be A tier. A or B, I'm gonna put him A for now, because anyone who plays Spider-Man right now, especially with the new like proficiency system, you can actually tell who's a good Spider-Man and who's not, which is a massive buff to Spider-Man. You know, like a massive sleeper buff to Spider-Man. But I think he's really solid in A tier. Because anyone who is playing Spider-Man knows how to play him at this point. You know, you're not playing Spider-Man in ranked unless you actually know what you're doing. And if you are, if you don't know what you're doing, you're kind of throwing, and everyone knows this. It's just become commonplace to be blamed for everything as a Spider-Man player. So you either carry the whole team, or you get blamed for everything. So if you're playing Spider-Man, you're carrying really hard. I think he's fantastic. I think the only issue with Spidey is that dive is not the meta. It's coming back. It's trickling down from pro play to high elo to low elo, but it's gonna be a bit. Plus there's almost no huge buffs to dive, so the natural progression will take its course. I think if you're playing Spider-Man right now, you're gonna get a ton of value on the guy, but for the moment, he's not going to be S tier. That could change next season, but it hasn't yet. Namor, just like Spider-Man, is an amazing character, has a ton of value. Now Namor's value is actually evident right now. Namor has a team up with one of the best poke characters, so he's really good. They just, this season they gave him buffs to take away from the team up and give to him. His value is a lot better. And he's counter dive, which is the incoming meta. So Namor's stocks are just up right now. They're way up. He's amazing. He doesn't have a hit scan weapon, so he does some poking stuff, but he's more of a mid-range character. Especially his ultimate, it doesn't last, it doesn't go for miles. So he's a mid-range character that doesn't have hit scan anything. So that's a couple of reasons why he's not S tier. Plus there are just better characters to choose right now. But he is amazing, and he has an amazing team up. So he's definitely up from B tier. I love to see it. I'm very glad. Namor, again, was my first Lord character, so I'm very glad that Namor's up from B tier, and he's starting to see a lot more love than what he had before, and some of the stuff that he deserves. Speaking of what he deserves, Black Panther is no longer F tier. I think he's niche. I think he's far from the standard at the moment, but if you're great with the combos, if you know when to leave, which is really hard to know for Panther right now, but if you know when to leave, if you're good with the guy, and or if you have a good team comp, like with this team up, you can still get some pretty good value on Panther. He had a huge dip last season, but I think the minor buffs that he got has taken him out of the garbage can and put him, on a bottom rung. I don't think he's amazing. I think there are better picks, especially if you're trying to dive, especially if you're trying to do what Panther does best. But if you're a diehard Panther player, you're actually able to play the video game again. Until someone picks Thing and just ruins your whole day. Alright, the vibe checker. The whole Kingsman stuff happened at the beginning of this season, so Magic has been all the rage. I'm still going to place her realistically. Magic, if you know all of the perfect combos and you can one-shot someone, can have immense value, especially because she can one-shot through support ults for certain supports. The problem is you have to be perfect with the combos, which means a ton of time on the character, and she's melee. She's not long distance, and long distance is the meta, unfortunately. So she's really good. You can get a ton of value out of her, but you have to know what you're doing, and you kind of can't have any room for failure with Magic if you're really trying to get the most value out of the character. You have to go for near perfect plays. So, you know, keep playing on Kingsman. If you love the character, keep going. She has a very high ceiling, but her floor is also very low. So I have to put her in B. Storm. Storm's gonna get a lot better. But for now, she's never played. I don't know if, I don't know how much more I can say about her. She's never played. Her team up with Jeff, he's really good. But, that means you have to play Storm, right? Jeff is not that bad right now. But Storm isn't bad, you just have to know how to play her and have the will to play her. Storm is a DPS player who does not run on adrenaline, right? And every DPS player has an Adderall IV that just goes straight into their veins. We know this is true, okay? Don't deny it. Come on, we know this is true. Even Scarlet Witch has a ton of hit markers that just pop off all the time, okay? Like, every single one of you needs to have constant validation and constant reaffirmation. Okay, just kidding. But you know what I mean, okay? Storm is an off DPS player. It's character, okay? Like, she's extremely team-based. She's extremely, value-heavy if you know what you're doing and you can have the patience and stay back far enough. You also have to have immense aim on her to stay back far enough and still get hits, still get kills. But she goes where the team is, and right now the team is far away. So she's not going to get a ton of value because she doesn't deal the same amount of damage, and she doesn't have hit scan, but for one ability. So right now Storm is kind of struggling. I think she's going to get a lot better with those buffs. With those buffs that are incoming, she's getting a complete rework to her kit. I think she's going to be a lot better. I hope that it kind of moves the team forward, and instead of just staying back completely and just poking everything, it actually keeps people playing in the middle. But we'll see if that ends up happening. Our first S tier DPS, Star-Lord. Star-Lord to me is the Magneto of DPS, where he's an extremely just consistent, solid S tier DPS at the moment. He's about to get a whole lot better than consistent and solid, because his ultimate is going to be a whole lot cheaper than it has been. So that could be a huge difference. That could change a ton of things. But, this season, he's been just very solid, very consistent. You can frontline, you can midline, you can dive, you can, take an off angle, you can farm your ult if you really want to, you can play him like Psylocke, you can play him a ton of different ways, and he has ways to avoid poke with his jumps and his reloads and his moves and everything. He's really good. It's hard to say bad about Star-Lord. And his ultimate usually ends up popping a support ult on their team, because if they don't pop it, they die. Which is always a good thing. Punisher. Punisher's a bit of an anomaly this season. His scan is really good, so he should be better. He should be played more, he should be used more, but the problem is he just isn't. I think it's because there are just better hit scan characters. There are better characters that do what he does, and also dive is not very popular. We saw at the end of the last season that he was, people were using his zipline tech, using his zipline to jump in with his shotgun and just take out the entire backline. But for some reason this season people aren't doing that. Just dive is not being used. I don't know why, but it's just not being used. I think as dive starts to come back, Punisher will get a little better. I think his shotgun honestly has more value than his regular gun right now. Just because there are characters that do so much better poking than him. He's probably a much better character if there are, if those poke characters are banned. But for now, he just doesn't provide the same value. So, unfortunately, he's a backup. B for backup. Scarlet Witch. Early character. Come on. Nothing wrong with her. But she just doesn't, she has a very low ceiling. You can only get so good at Scarlet Witch. You can only provide so much good value on her before you just kind of cap out and get no better, right? I would love to see those buffs that she got extremely temporarily come back, because then you need to aim on the girl, but till something like that happens, she's gonna be D tier. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Poke is meta. Need I say more? She has anti-dive, slight anti-dive. Poke is meta. She can 3-shot most characters. I don't really think I need to say much of anything, She's a tank shredder with her right click. It shoots out all of the different knives. Especially non-Magneto tanks. And I guess non-tank pool tanks. Tanks with shields that actually exist. Because they'll stick into the shield, and then as they explode, they'll explode whether the shield exists or not. It'll just explode in that area. So she's really good at just tearing through front lines. And she's really good at just taking out back lines from a very long distance. And if someone tries to dive her, she's got her shift that can get away, that can get back into her team, or it can get away to a health pack or something. Get her far enough to poke out whoever's trying to do the diving, right? So that's, I don't really think I need to say a ton more about Hela. She just is the standard, I think, for really good DPS right now. Honestly, one of the reasons why Spider-Man is so good, why Spider-Man is in A tier, not B tier, because Spider-Man is really hard to be taken out if he dives the back line, or if he dives the mid line even. Spider-Man dives Hela. He's honestly not easy to be taken out. He's got, incredible movement, and he can get away really easily. So he's A tier because he's really hard to hit, but he can only, you have to be extremely good at the guy. We've talked about Spider-Man. Point of the matter is he's an amazing dive character, and he kind of counters some of the poke characters, Bucky, A tier. Yeah, A tier. Bucky is kind of the Mantis of DPS. He's got an extremely high ceiling, but he's got an extremely low floor. He's got a lot of tools to his kit, and if you have really good coordination with your team, you can do a lot of value. You can get a ton of value on the guy. But if you're not coordinating a ton, and if you aren't good at him, you're just not going to get the value that you should be. And at the moment, there are better picks. Like Star-Lord, like Hela, even like Namor, who's a lot easier to play than Bucky, but doesn't have the same toolkit. Or even like Psylocke. Psylocke, as everyone always says, just farm your ult, and then jump to the back line and use it. Her ultimate still can kill through support ults without a damage boost. You know, it's still crazy. It's still amazing. It's still insane. But you have to know what you're doing. You have to know when to use it. So I think that she's probably bottom of S tier. I feel like she could be power crept very quickly, very soon. But, you know, she's one of the few dive characters who's survived the dive purge. And I think that's because you can midline with her, you can dive with her. She's very similar to Star-Lord, but Star-Lord does things very more efficiently. She just gets her ult faster, which is not going to be the case next season. Next season, he's going to be everything that Psylocke is, but better. So really look out for Star-Lord next season. Psylocke is, I think, staying the same. I don't think she's getting any changes. But she's good. She's become the poster child of rivals when it comes to skins. But, you know, she's really solid. She's really consistent. So, you can't hate her. Actually, the character that might be the lowest S tier is Moon Knight. A surprise come from behind pick. You know, Moon Knight was kind of B tier, I think. A or B tier last season. But has really become a big deal. You know, ban-worthy. He might become, I might put him more to A tier if things change, but a lot of people are grouped up right now, and Moon Knight can just throw random anything and get a ton of value. He farms his ultimate way too quickly. You can have like 4 ultimates in a team fight if it lasts long enough. So, I mean, he's crazy easy. You throw an Ankh, it brings people in. You right click once and then hold your left click for like a second and you can destroy an entire backline. It's an absurd amount of value you can get for very little actual effort. So, he's not really a poke character, but he has pretty good range and you can just throw things and if it hits one character, it will bounce. You know, you don't need very good, like, intention with a character. You don't need to do things a very specific way like you'd have to do with so many other DPS characters, right? Like Bucky or like Psylocke especially, you know? You don't have to really care. You can just throw something at the tank, you know, and it does the rest. The projectile does everything. So, Moon Knight's amazing because he can just have everything bounce all over the place, right? You may end up going to A tier. We'll see based on some of these other characters, but for now I'm going to leave him at the bottom of S because I do think he's extremely ban-worthy right now. So many people are banning him that I think he has to be put in S tier. You know, if people really don't want to play against Moon Knight, clearly he's got enough of a threat level that he's, you know, dangerous. Anyway, moving on to someone a little less consistent, Hawkeye. Hawkeye clips, every highlight that you see from Hawkeye, like videos, are, look, I got this amazing headshot from, you know, from the start of this map, then it'll cut to a headshot from the end of this map, then it'll cut to a headshot from another map, then it'll cut to a headshot from another map. Like, you can get some really good plays on Hawkeye, but you just can't do it consistently, you know? If you're cracked out of your mind and you have 1,000 hours on Hawkeye, yeah, you're gonna annihilate and you're gonna just pummel everyone in your path. But that's not realistic. That's not something to be expected. And you gotta keep realistic expectations, you know, realistic expectations for your player base. His ultimate is crazy. You can just pummel people through support ults. If you just target someone down, especially if you get a ton of headshots, they just melt. But again, consistency, reliability. He has a fairly expensive ultimate, and you have to do a lot to get it. And Hawkeye's not really a character you do a lot on. You basically wait until you get the perfect shot, and then you take it. So you don't get his ultimate fast. His ultimate is amazing, but you get it extremely slowly. He's good, but you just have to put in a ton of time. He's very much so like Magic, but a long-range version. He's definitely good enough to be B tier, and he definitely can get the value, especially in this poke meta. But you just have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, and you have to be extremely patient with him. Because if you're not going to get the value that other characters can provide. Moving on, I'm gonna put Iron Fist in B tier. I think he's below Punisher. Punisher is just so consistent. He's just picked less than other characters. So I think Punisher's best EBS and B tier. Iron Fist is really good. I think he's going to get even better with Dive coming up, becoming more and more prevalent. But you know, he's got to team up with a character that's kind of fallen off recently, been a little power crept, and he's really good. He deals some serious damage to everyone. I think he will get a lot more play, but at the moment he's just not really being chosen. Again, there are better options. His playstyle is good for what he does, but there are better options than him at the moment. Even for what he does, you just pick Spider-Man. And granted, Spider-Man is 10 times harder to play, but you have to commit to a playstyle. And if you're committing to the Dive playstyle, Spider-Man is a better character for that playstyle than Iron Fist right now. It just is what it is. I'll think about this some more. Iron Fist might be better than Punisher, because there aren't a ton of diving characters, but there's one really big one that we have yet to talk about. Yeah. The Vibes character, normally I'd put her in C. I think she deserves C, but for this season, because of the drama and everything with Kingsman, she has to be put in D, because no one's playing her, and everyone's being flamed for playing her. She doesn't deserve F tier. She doesn't even deserve D tier, I think, but she has to be put here because no one's playing her, and it's, people are going to drama farm and, worry about the fact that you're playing a character deemed as bad this season, if you play her. So, unfortunately for her and for Widow mains, she is D tier this season. I think she'll go back to C once things die down a bit, but this was a huge controversy. This was a huge drama. It was a huge drama, even I think there was a basketball team even that tweeted something about this, or did some sort of something, but everyone knows about it. It's hugely popular. Once that dies down, she'll go back up, but she requires a ton of investment, and this season she's just gonna get way too flamed for anyone playing her. Enough said. Wolverine. Wolverine deserves A tier, but he's kind of jobless right now because there's not enough tanks for him to be used on. So I'm gonna put him in E tier. honestly here. I think I am gonna do this. Yeah. Yeah, I think I am gonna do this, because there's not enough characters that dive, that do what Iron Fists do, that are above him to shut him out. It's just that there's no need for an Iron Fist right now. Punisher gets shut out by characters that do the same thing as him. So he's unfortunately lower in B. Yeah, Wolverine is jobless. There's not enough large health pools for Wolverine to get enough value. So you just pick better characters. Plus he's a melee character. And we all know what the meta is. So he's kind of an issue. You know, if you calm that, oh, I have a Wolverine on me as a tank player. Hela turns and can, in 5 shots, just get the nuisance away from you. Done. Easy. Yeah. It's unfortunate. I think he'll go up. He's getting crazy buffs to his ultimate, but for now, B tier. Top of B tier. When tanks get better, he'll get better. Kind of the same way that Squirrel Girl and Iron Man are, but, you know, he's in a league above those two for sure. Now, a sleeper pick, frankly, is Mr. Fantastic. I mean, just look at that. Look at the aura of that picture. I mean, that's crazy. Mr. Fantastic is this high simply because no one is playing tank. And he's the tank of DPS. Oh. Real quick. Here's your DPS that were released when the game was released. Here you go. You know, get your screenshots in and everything. Moving on. Mr. Fantastic. You know, no one is playing tank. If you want to play DPS, but you want to try and support your team, Mr. Fantastic is a great pick. No one's picking him. I think more people should, frankly. You know, if solo tank continues, please, if you want to play DPS, play Mr. Fantastic. Yes, he's a melee character, so some poke stuff is going to get in the way, but he lives. He lives very easily. It's very easy for that guy to live. So, you know, like, poke should not be an issue for the guy. You can just shift or go inflated, and all of a sudden he's just good to go. Now, he is losing the Invis team up as of next season, so it may be harder for him to do stuff, but I'm very hopeful that we're going to see 2 tanks next season, more so than this season. Really hopeful. If not, then it may just be out of luck and Groot's going to reign supreme forever. But who knows? Season 1 also brought us Johnny Storm. I think Johnny Storm is probably top of C. I think you can get the most value out of the guy. He's just never played. And he's in the sky. But he's an up-close flyer, you know? The way they've changed him with his F that can dive and everything. He can take out supports in his ultimate. Or in their ultimate. If you play him right. Problem is, A, you gotta play him. B, you gotta know how to play him. C, you kinda have to have an invis on your team. And losing the team up very quickly, I don't know how good he's going to be moving forward. I think the overshield for his dive is going to help a lot. I don't know if it's going to be enough. I think this guy is the lowest picked character in the game in the last couple seasons. So, you know, if he gets played more, he would be higher, but he's just not getting picked. I think he's probably a sleeper pick. I think you could probably get a ton of value on the guy. And the people that do, the people that, you know, post content as Human Torch mains, you get some crazy clips and things that you thought you could never do with the character. you know, now with the Spider-Man team up gone, he's got a team up with Thing, and that's like it. So it's, you know, it's a shame. But I think he should be better. I think he should be better than this. But he just needs a larger sample size. And he just doesn't have it right now. We don't need a larger sample size for that one. Hella on steroids. She has so many movement abilities. If you even try to dive her, you just can't. You just can't even attempt it. You have to poke her, and that's it. It's the only way that you can take out Phoenix right now, is to diff her. That's it. And you have to be as another Phoenix player, or as a Hela player, or as a cracked Hawkeye, or something. But no one can touch her. It just is what it is. She's amazing. She's fantastic. You know? I don't know what more I have to say, you know? She deals, you know, she hits you twice, and all of a sudden you blow up. Literally. You know? She puts flames onto you, and then you blow up. And then she hits you again, and you're dead. Between her and Hela, right now, she's better. She's getting a health nerf, so she could be worse next season. We'll see if it's enough. But, you know, Hela deals additional damage when she kills someone. Phoenix deals additional damage when she hits someone. So, Phoenix is honestly better at getting kills than Hela is. But Hela is much better at a domino effect. You know? So if you're rolling someone, it's better to have Hela. But if you're trying to just clear a team slowly, Phoenix is better. And, you know, right now, Poke is really trying to burst down characters and really trying to get through a team. Now, there's not enough tanks, I would say, for Phoenix to be, like, in peak condition. I feel like if tanks were meta as well, if, like, it was a 2-tank meta and triple support or something, Phoenix would be feasting, absolutely feasting. You know, best condition of her life. But there's really, you know, most teams only have 1 tank. So Phoenix is just going to have to settle for being absolutely amazing and not cracked out of her mind. So, you know, boo-hoo-hoo. She can only be, you know, possibly the best DPS in the game and not, like, broken and need to be fixed. You know? Oh, woe is her, right? Now to a character who wishes he could be in that situation, and who we all wish could be in that situation, frankly. Blade. No, he's going below Storm. Blade, I think you can get better. You can get solid value with him. They gave him some buffs. It's not enough. You know, he's been power crept. When he got anti-heal, it was cool. It was new. It was interesting. Now everyone is anti-heal, and he's not special. And he doesn't do enough damage. You know, he needs more. Like, the game is moving too fast for Blade. If you're amazing with him, and you use him in the right scenarios, you can get a lot of use, but it has to be the right scenarios, you have to be good at him, and you need the right team comp. So, it's just too much. He's not bad, you know, I can't put him in D tier, but he's just, he needs too much to actually be used in everyday play, right? Honestly, I would put Blade below Panther, because more people know how to play Panther really solidly than they do Blade. So, it's unfortunate, but it's true. But Blade wishes he could be as well. Daredevil's crazy. They nerfed him a ton. this season, and he's still amazing. The only dive character who can full dive on his own without any help. Okay? You can jump straight into the back line and do what you need to, you know, and actually try to take out some supports right now, which supports are crazy. But Daredevil can do it. Daredevil can put in the effort and alone dive into a backline and get some real value. You know, now he might just get some of the cap value, which is just taking attention away, but sometimes it's enough. You know, plus he has very fast cooldowns, so you can dive in and out, and then right back in and out, and then right back in and out. You know, if you know where the health packs are, you can make Daredevil menace. So he's definitely better than Moon Knight. I just feel like team play and like coordination is better, is more meta this season. So, you know, going off on your own is a little bit harder, especially because dive is not full meta yet. It's coming back, but it's not full meta yet. So he's good. He's S tier. He's not top of S tier. He's better than Moon Knight, but I don't think he's better than Psylocke or Star-Lord. And he's definitely not better than the Poke Queens. So, is what it is. Everyone ready? Take a breath, you know? Take a drink. I'm gonna take a sip. This is gonna be a long one. Drinking ASMR. So, Deadpool. I will talk about all three versions because I feel like all three versions should be talked about right now. Yeah, the conversation is not which Deadpool is best, or which Deadpool does this, or which Deadpool does that. All of them are Deadpool. All of them need to be talked about as Deadpool. Okay? You cannot talk about one without the other. You have to talk about them all together. Let me rank them real quick. There's DPS Deadpool. Actually, there's DPS Deadpool. Unfortunately. So here's all your DPS right now. Take a screenshot, take whatever, do what you want. Actually, if you're gonna take a screenshot, Phoenix, uncontested, best DPS in the game. Here's your DPS lineup. Take a screenshot, take whatever you want, and I'll rank support Deadpool as well. So here's the conversation with Deadpool. Here's the long 10-minute discussion. DPS Deadpool first. DPS Deadpool is good, okay? He honestly deserves B tier, okay? I can't put him in B tier though. I'm not allowed to put him in B tier because of support pool and tank pool, okay? DPS Deadpool is good, okay? He's a good flanker. He's a good off-angle character. But there's so many better DPS characters to pick at the moment. You know, he does very similar things that Psylocke does. He does very similar things that that Daredevil does. You know, between his gun form and his sword form. The best part about him is that he can switch between them. So you have the flexibility. You have the tools available to you that let you do all of these different things. But you just have better characters that can, you know, specify. You have better characters that can prioritize those specific things. You know, for flexibility all the way. You know, he can do everything and then some. And he does a pretty solid amount of damage. But he's so easy to kill. He's so easy to kill. And especially in the meta that we are right now. I mean, I've been saying it all day. Poke meta. He can just be taken out with 2 shots. He's a 250 HP character. You know? Hela and Phoenix and Hawkeye and Psylocke even love those characters. Even Magic. Magic loves 250 characters. It's insane. Sorry, those are my glasses. It's insane. Magic loves 250 health characters. One good combo and you're done. Even half a combo, because it takes forever for the healing thing to kick in. And most of the time, you're in an off angle and you're not going to have a healer. Or you're all the way in front and it's very difficult for a healer to get to you. It's hard for him to do what he's doing right now. He needs a health buff. I forget. Does he get a health buff right now? I know they said something. No, it's just stuff with his ultimate. That's a shame. He needs to be 275 or even 300 HP. Honestly, he does. You know? He'd be able to do stuff if he was 275 even HP. But he's not. The problem is he just gets killed every single fight. You know, he's killed first every fight, which is a real problem if you're trying to do anything with the guy. But eventually you're gonna get all of your upgrades, and then he can really do some meaningful things. But unless you're really fast with him, and you're able to get the ultimate extremely quickly, you can maybe get his gun ultimate off and then do something. But unless the sword ultimate is upgraded, there's almost never a chance that you get to use the sword ultimate and live. You know, you gotta be just cracked out of your mind as a DPS Deadpool player specifically to get crazy good value on the guy. You know? So he's good. I still say that he should be put in B tier, right? I'd love to put him in B tier. But here comes the issue. This is Deadpool. And this is Deadpool. And this is Deadpool, okay? And Tank Pool and Support Pool are also amazing characters. So for that reason, if you choose DPS Deadpool, if he's a B tier character, if you choose him, that means you no longer have access to an S tier tank. You no longer have access to an S or A tier support. You've locked your team out of some of the better characters in those roles, okay? One of the best tanks. You've locked your team out from having that. And if you're only a duelist main, Deadpool player, that means that you've completely locked possibly the 4th or 5th best tank player, you know, tank character in the game from being used by your team. It's just not worth the risk. So for that reason, he goes down from B to C. Similarly, Support Pool. Support Pool is amazing. I'd love to rank him in S tier. Okay? I can go off on Support Pool after I worry about Tank Pool. But for the same reason, I can't put him in S tier. He has to be put in A tier. Because if someone wants to play Tank Pool's better. Tank Pool takes priority, so he gets bumped from S down to A. I've talked about Duelist Deadpool ad nauseum. I am going to go to Tank Pool. Tank Pool is amazing. Okay? He does the same damage as Duelist Deadpool, but he actually lives because he's in front of his healers. The point of it, you know, the point of him is to take damage. He has twice the health pool as, you know, of Duelist and Support Pool. So he just survives, you know? And he's got one of the best, you know, bubbles, one of the best shields in the game with his right click. It's incredible. Dealing a ton of damage. He pokes from the front line, which is crazy. You know, and All tanks want to be able to heal themselves. He can heal himself the moment the battle's done. You know, if the battle gets wrapped up and the supports are done, if dive becomes, if a dive comes back in full swing and the healers get taken out and you turn around and you're able to finish the battle and win, tanks typically have to go and find a health pack. Deadpool just heals. He'll just heal. And he'll be ready to go for the next fight. He's great. He really is great. He also has damage reduction on his sword ult, and having a really good opportunity being in the front to use his gun ult, right? He gets the opportunity to pick anyone, front line, back line, a flanker. Tanks see everything. So you get the perfect opportunity to pick the perfect target for the gun ultimate to say, what are you aiming at? And make them just deal a ton of damage. So if he's able to pick the right poke target, if he's able to pick the right tank target to make them have to walk away, especially if they're a melee character, make them have to walk away. If you pick someone like a Punisher who's starting their ultimate, they just die. Because the missiles shoot regardless. If they try to shoot while they have that, they're done. Deadpool as a character in general is really useful to help people disengage, to make the enemy team disengage. And as a tank player, that is immensely powerful. Also as a support player, that is immensely powerful. Support pool, very similar to tank pool, is a character that just does not die. He has so many ways to heal people. Heal himself, heal characters around him, heal characters in front of him. His shots are just like cloak and daggers, where if you hit a teammate, it heals. If you hit an enemy, it damages. Which means you don't have to swap anything. You just shoot. That's one of the downsides to Mantis and to Adam Warlock, and even to Rocket, is you can't just spam shoot constantly. You have to alternate. You have to use your brain and alternate somewhat. It's one of the biggest downsides to Ultron, honestly. If Ultron's primary fire dealt healed as well as damaged, I think Ultron would probably be a much better character. And that might be the perfect fix for the guy, but he doesn't. So, he gets ranked really low oftentimes. Spoiler alert, he'll get ranked low again. But support pool heals in almost every way imaginable and more. The guns are incredible. If there's someone that is low on health next to you, you use your E and you create a circle of healing around you, like a healing ultimate, which is crazy. If there's someone in front of you that is low on health or something, you use your right click and you throw your icon. It's incredible. I recommend that to be your first upgrade as support pool. Support pool is my favorite of them all, so I have the most time on him. I really recommend throwing the icon and doing that as the first upgrade, because if you do that, you get 3 spins. And then if you're someone like me that doesn't have incredible aim, you can just shoot at your tanks and shoot at the characters that are near you, or that you get a chance to actually shoot at, and just throw the head at all the people that need it. The people that are starting to get on low health or are getting attacked. Boom. And it comes back to you, and then you can retarget and hit again, right? DPS Deadpool has good things, but he just lacks the things that the other 2 Deadpools do better, right? Tank Deadpool does a ton of damage and likes to stand in front and can choose the perfect targets and engage when he needs to, and lives. DPS Deadpool tries to engage when he wants to, and dies. Support Deadpool, he can heal in almost every way. He can jump on someone's head and heal them even. And, he throws the head and he gets damage even, right? He shoots and he gets damage. He does the E if someone's trying to approach. And if they even press in, he uses the swords. Because then all the people in front who are getting pressed, all the tanks in front, if the enemy team is pushing in, you just jump forward and slice, and then you're healing people. Both supports are like support ults. Both of his ults are like support ults, especially if they're upgraded. You see your enemy team pushing, use the gun ult on a tank, and then as they're pushing in, they're just gonna get healed. If the enemy team is pushing, use the sword ult, and then, even though that one's probably the worst of the two because it requires so many checks, if the enemy team's pushing in and it's the right time, use the sword ult and just, keep everyone in front alive. Support pool is really, really good at keeping his team alive, and I would love to put him in S tier, but I can't because tank pool is better. Okay? I sort of meandered around this character. I sort of went back and forth. I hope it makes sense. If you have more questions, please leave it in the comments. But Deadpool is such a specific character, but you have to consider him as one character, not as three. Because if you choose one, you cannot choose the others. Okay? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let's continue into the supports. Starting off strong with Luna. Luna is a B tier. Everyone has called her trash. She's not trash. Okay? Luna is the embodiment of the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. Okay? Luna is a main healer. She does a ton of healing. She is really good at healing. She's honestly going to get better, I think, when Dive comes back. But right now, her Snowflake is not necessary because everyone is together. Everyone is in sight of the healers. Excuse me. You don't have two tanks to swap the Snowflake between. So it becomes hard to worry about the specifics of that. Her Snowflake just doesn't get a ton of value right now. You can, and in the right circumstances, it should, but there's just better healers. There's just better healers in this list. So unfortunately, comparing her to other healers takes her down a couple notches. So she could be A, she could even be S in the right circumstances if 3 other healers or 4 other healers are banned. But if we're talking about overall, she just doesn't stack up to other characters. It's unfortunate, but it really is true. Loki. I don't have to say anything. I just don't. I don't have to say anything. Okay? Loki is as good as the best support. And the best support is an S plus. Okay? Just flat out. Loki is amazing. They're barely nerfing him for the next season. I think he's going from 12 ammo to 10 ammo. Yeah, 12 to 10, I think. That's gonna do nothing. It's gonna do basically nothing. Okay? Slightly reduce his rate of fire. That's it. Rocket's really good. The amplifier is most of his value, frankly. But he is still really hard to kill, really hard to find, even. He can stay in the back and not be found at all, and just shoot orbs and provide immense value to your team the entire time, the entire game. You can't find him at all, and he just heals the entire team without any worry of dying at all. And he'll revive someone, the first to die. Need I say more? Rocket's amazing. He's not S tier, again, comparison, but he's still definitely extremely solid, and I would not bat an eye if someone chose Rocket on my team. Mantis, I said that Bucky was the Mantis of DPS. Let me explain what that means a little bit. Mantis is a 1-star character, meaning she has an extremely low floor. Anyone can play Mantis. Not anyone can be good at Mantis and can provide the same value on Mantis. Mantis has an incredibly high ceiling. She's basically a perma-pick or a perma-ban in pro play, and in high elo as well. Mantis is incredibly incredibly well used, incredibly highly picked. But it's just that you have to have good comms to play her. You have to know what you're doing. You have to choose the right characters to boost. You have to choose the right this, do the right that. It's a whole can of worms when it comes to Mantis. Because of how high her ceiling is, she cannot be low. She cannot be ranked low on this list. But because of how low her floor is and how bad you can play her, I can't put her in S. Okay? People are banning her, but it's only the highest echelon of ranked and pro play. So I can't justify putting her in S tier. She's in A tier, and she's less consistent than Support Pool and Rocket. So there's Mantis. She's a whole can of worms, but just like Bucky, she's very inconsistent. You have to know what you're doing, and then you can carry the entire team on your back. Adam Warlock, he's not going to be in C tier next season. I'm really glad about that. They're giving him flight, which is hilarious because they are actually removing his legs. He's not being put in a wheelchair. He's being given wings. But they are actually removing his legs and giving him flight. So I think that's hilarious. But until then, he's C tier. He's a team up with a power crept support, and that's it. How far he's fallen, he had one of the best, if not the best, team up ever in the game. He has a crazy high ultimate cost, so unless you're carrying on the guy, you're not getting a ton of value. It's unfortunate, but it's true. He's better the higher you go up, but you also need a ton of hours on the guy. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to be good at the game. Point blank is what it is. Jeff, B, I think better than Luna. Very solid, very consistent. His ultimate is his only downside. If you actually try to eat people and you know what you're doing, it's just a death button. It's just a kill button. Okay? Not for the enemy team, for you. You hit Q and you die. The healing pool, great. But if you actually try to eat anyone, there's so much movement right now. You're not going to get anyone. You're just going to die. Unless you are the Jeff. Unless you are Jeffrey the Shark himself. You're not going to get any kills. You're just going to die. That's it. So, B tier. He could get better. If you're amazing at him, he goes up. But, again, there are better choices. And he's kind of a Spidey-like character. Everyone blames the Jeff on your team, right? Everyone assumes that, oh, just choose Luna and you'll be better. Or just choose some other characters and you'll be better. But, you know, these days, maybe not. You know, you can get a ton of value on Jeff. You just have to play him right and not get greedy. Yeah. Cloak and Dagger, everyone thought would be S tier. Absolutely broken, absolutely busted at the start of the season. She's not. You know, she's good, but she's just very standard, middle of the road, solid. You know, probably the highest healing output in the game, but that's not everything to healing, right? And if diving does become a huge part of the meta again, you know, she's got a lot of tools that help with dive. So I think she may stay the same, you know, stay consistent or get even better, but, you know, she just doesn't provide the extra that other characters do, right? She's very good at healing. She has some pretty good control things. She's very good at supporting, but her ultimate is 100% countered by Magneto, and everyone knows how to do it. Everyone who plays Magneto knows exactly how to do it, knows all their tricks, knows all the tricks that Cloak players have. They know how to kill you in every possible way if you use your ult. So they basically took a solved character, gave them a bunch of buffs, and sure, you're better, but you still get countered in every way that you did before. So, for that reason, you can't be higher than A. Especially because of this girl. Invis is amazing. Ultimate's amazing. The self-shield is amazing. You know, he's trading out one team up with some, frankly, niche characters for a team up with a character that's really on the rise. So she may get even better with the team up. You know, it's a weird combination of characters, but she might get picked a ton next season. Who knows? We'll see. She's incredible. Has a ton of control stuff. Yeah, she does a ton of healing, has a ton of control. I don't know how much more I need to say. She's absolutely busted, and the amount of healing she does is off the charts. Ultron, again, like I said, he doesn't do enough healing. Either give him a third drone, which I don't think they should do, or make his primary output heal and go twice as fast. Because sure, they could make him heal, but man, it would be slow going. Like, Ultron is far away from being really meta again. It's very possible that he could be used. I know in some pro play settings he's used to do some very specific things, but that is extremely niche. That's the definition of C tier. Okay? He's very far from being standard. He needs a lot of help. He needs a lot of assistance. And he has a team up with some real bangers right now. So, maybe with a better team up, maybe with some more buffs or something else, he could be better. But for now, here's what he is. Gambit, let's not beat around the bush. I'm not even going to put him in S. His ult got nerfed. It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. He still is what he is, which is the best support in the game. His ultimate changes the tide of everything. He's either banned or he's on your team. Okay, and if he's not on your team and he's on the enemy team, you're cooked. You just lose automatically. You know, absolutely broken power crept support. He's the reason that Loki is the second best support in the game, is because Gambit is so good. If Gambit got worse, Loki would go down to the, as good as Invis is. And I really want to, I'm considering even putting Loki up with Gambit because those two together are an insane combo. But it's one above all, it's not two above all. So Gambit is up there alone. Stands above all the rest. And the new one, Elsa Bloodstone. We'll see a first look at her on the 11th. And we'll actually get to play her on the 13th. We'll see how she is. My prediction is that she's going to be pretty complicated and she's probably going to land in B tier. But I honestly don't know. I'll put her up in one above all because we got no clue. We got no clue how she's going to be. I'm optimistic. So, this is the official Rivals Way Too Late tier list. Take your screenshots, go back and rewatch it, do what you want. I can't tell you what to do. Do what you want. I'm going to blitz through the balance posts, the adjustments, give my take on them, how I think they'll increase or decrease the characters. Strange, Shield of Seraphim, recovery speed. They're making him more offensive than defensive. He's going to stay in S tier. He might even move up, but I think he's going to stay in S tier. Especially if double tank becomes a bigger deal. Rogue, increased defensive stance, energy, conversion rate. I don't know if that's her shift or if that's her right click. Either way, I think it's going to be a big deal. This is massive. She's going to be A tier at least next season. At least. Thor, I really hope is going to go to S tier. If there's a 2 there's a 2 tank meta again. S tier for sure. Venom, this is gonna help in pro play for sure. This is gonna be bonkers in pro play, but his ultimate has always required a ton of coordination, to provide crazy value. So for now, I think it's gonna help him in ranked. I don't know if it's going to take him out of B, though. I think he might still be in B for now. Until dive becomes a huge problem, I think he's just going to be in B. Deadpool Duelist, some ultimate stuff. These two are still too good. He might move up to B, but he's being outclassed, flat out. Moon Knight, reduce max health bonus from 100 to 75. That'll do nothing. Phoenix, this one will do something. From 275 to 250. These two might switch. These two might switch. Who knows? We'll have to see if Poke is even as good as it has been. Psylocke. Damage fall off 60 to 70. Reduce single hit damage from 170 to 160. I think all that this is supposed to do is to worry about the changing her more from a an ult merchant to more of a midline attacker, which is gonna be really nice. I think it's going to help her. But it could do nothing, honestly. It could do something, it could do nothing. Squirrel Girl, increase how fast she does her ult. Again, Squirrel Girl is not, it's not a function of how good she is, it's just a function of how many tanks you have on the field, right? if there's a ton of tanks, if there's a ton of large hitboxes, then you're gonna get more value. But if there's not, and if people get better and know how to play against her, which they are, then she's cooked. So I don't think this is gonna do much of anything. Star-Lord, this is huge. He's gonna go from, you know, top of S to maybe even one above all. We'll see. You know, it could be crazy. Storm, getting a ton of buffs. She hopefully will go from extremely niche to at least B tier. I'm really hopeful. Punisher, I think this will take him out of B tier. I think this will make him more solid, more consistent. Wolverine is going to be an absolute menace, man. Hopefully he's no longer unemployed. Hopefully he goes to A tier or even S tier, honestly. But this is going to be huge. I think this might be their solution for supports with Wolverine, but who knows? This could do nothing for supports. This could be everything. This could be the final nail in the coffin for, you know, those straggler 2 tanks. You know, Wolverine getting a huge buff. Who knows? The ult hasn't really affected tanks all that much. It's more of been a squishy thing. But who knows? It could be a big deal. We'll see. Adam Warlock, they chop off his legs. You know, they'll hover with Soul Bond. Cool. Great. I'm glad that Adam is actually getting a movement ability. He's needed it. It's going to take him from C, hopefully, to, you know, more of the meta up here. Because these two are really not getting played at all. You know, unless you're just a die-hard fan of these characters. Ultron honestly could have been D tier. I just think that triple support is still a big deal, and Ultron is decent in triple support. Invisible Woman, increased cooldown of force physics. I think that's her shift. That's not going to do much of anything. That's not going to do much of anything. Drone Patch, that's not going to do much of anything. This is gone. Elsa's team up with Deadpool, we'll see. Thing team up with Hulk will be fun for low elo. Probably won't get seen in high elo or pro play. Mr. Fantastic with Rocket. Could be really cool, you know? This is just a test, though, to see if letting Mr. Fantastic choose when to go into big form is a good idea or not. That's all that this team up is. They're just seeing if it's a viable solution to making Mr. Fantastic good, you know? And if it is, that probably will be a new addition in another season or so to the big man. And if it makes him too busted, then they just won't add it. And this is going to be absurd. This, I think, is going to make both of them amazing. You know? That's the end of the patch notes. That's the end of the video. We'll see how good Elsa ends up being. And hopefully 6.5 fixes some things. I know that Overwatch is coming back with a vengeance, but I don't play Overwatch, so we'll see. We'll see how well this season ends up shaking things up. I don't think much is going to change, frankly. I think that things are really going to stay similar. I think Dive is going to creep in, and I think that we'll see how Elsa fits into things. I hope she fits better than Duelist Deadpool has. But until the next set of patch notes, ignite the battle, I guess.